Hello guys, today we're gonna work on slow flight using the ETCA mindset. So we're gonna focus on slow flight today and we will talk about steep turn later. And this maneuver is where you really start to feel what the airplane is doing near the stall. And honestly, this is one of the biggest skill builders in private pilot training. Okay, all right, then let's get started. Cool. So why slow flight matters? Before we touch anything, quick question is when do you actually fly slow in real life? Not in cruise, but during takeoff, landing, go around, and the track pattern. That's exactly where the airplane is working the hardest and where your control really matters. And this is also where you really start to understand energy management, how pitch primarily controls airspeed and power supports your altitude. That relationship becomes very obvious in slow flight. So this maneuver is not just a checkride item. This is where you build real airplane control, especially with rudder and energy management. Okay. Oops. Okay. These are important. Right. So yeah, what we are trying to do today. So yeah, today's goal is simple in words, but not always easy in the airplane, right? Um, we want to fly just above the stall speed, and while keeping the airplane steady in altitude, airspeed, and coordinated. The big mindset here is smooth and small corrections. If you find yourself making big aggressive inputs, that's usually a sign you are getting behind the airplane. Okay? Cool. And now here's something I always tell students. A slow flight actually starts before slow flight. If you begin from a slopey setup, the whole maneuver become harder than it needs to be. So first, get the airplane nice and stable, and trimmed, straight and level, usually somewhere around 90 knots, and cruise power at a safe altitude, typically in this 1,500 feet AGL. Now, oh yeah, of course, before any maneuver, you would normally complete these things and your pre-maneuver flow and perform clearing turns to check for traffic, right? But for today, we are going to keep the focus on slow flight. So just think of those items as your basic set of steps before starting the maneuver, okay? Cool. Yeah, these are outside picture. As we slow down, I don't want you glued to the instruments. Instead, start building your outside sight picture. In the Cessna 172, many pilots use the compass area as a reference point on the windshield, but remember that's just a training aid. And what really matters is learning what the nose to horizon picture looks like in slow flight. Compared to cruise, if you see here, oops, how to erase. Um, okay. So yeah, compared to cruise, you will clearly see the nose sitting higher. If you see these for clean and dirty, both of them would be higher, the horizon, right? And then outside picture is what you want to start memorizing. So now, just to help you visualize this, I just brought a quick copy view from Explain. This is just for reference. Simulators are not perfectly accurate. But if you look at the dirty configuration, especially over here, you will notice the nose. The nose sits the highest, right? This for the clean is pretty looks same, but this nose the highest one. Okay, so just yeah, use this only as a visual aid. Okay, okay, and just keep in mind that the darty is typically the highest nose attitude. Okay, let's move on. And here's what the checkride is really looking for. Like, what does the ACS want? ACS, yeah, yeah. ACS stands for Airman Certification Standards. It's basically the FAA's checklist for what you have to demonstrate on your check ride. Well, anyway, so they are basically looking for precision and control. Can you hold altitude within about 100 feet, heading within about 10 degrees, and keep the ball centered while staying just above stall speed? If you can do all that smoothly, you're in a really good spot. So these are not problems at all. Okay, cool. Okay, now let's dig a little deeper into slow flight. There are two types of slow flights, which are clean and dirty. We will start with clean slow flight first. Clean slow flight is a slow flight performed in the clean configuration, meaning the flaps are up, like no flaps. Okay. You are still flying just above stall speed, but without the extra drag from the flaps. So the airplane will usually feels a little more responsive compared to the dirty configuration. Okay. Okay, good. Let's move on. Clean entry. Okay. Then let's slow the airplane down. From cruise, smoothly bring the power back to about 1500 RPM. Don't yank it, and as the airplane starts to decelerate, you'll need to gradually bring the nose up to hold altitude. Okay. So gently and progressively pull back on the yoke to hold your altitude. As you do this, the airspeed will begin to decrease. And this part is important. Be patient. Be patient. Be patient. Yeah. And let the airspeed come down on its own. And don't try to force the airplane into slow flight. Okay? Cool. Once you're approaching your target speed, usually somewhere in the 60 to 70 knots range, now we stabilize. Okay. This is pure ETCA. Set and hold your outside pitcher and adds just enough power to maintain altitude. In this case, it'll typically be around 1900 RPM. So and then keep confirming that outside pitch picture to maintain your airspeed roughly between 48 and 58 knots. 48 knots is your clean stall speed, so if you let it drop below that, you'll start to hear the stall running horn and the airplane can enter the stall, so be careful here. Then trim the pressure out, next cross check with your performance instruments, of course, and repeat the cycle. Also remember the relationship. Pitch is primarily controlling your airspeed. Controls your airspeed during slow flight. And the power power is helping you support altitude. Good. And also because we are slow with relatively high power, so don't forget, you will usually need some right rudder, okay? Right rudder to keep the ball centered the entire time. Does that make sense? Cool. After maneuvering in slow flight, your instructor or checkerman will usually ask you to recover. And when it's time to recover, don't rush it, okay? Smoothly add full power, gently lower the nose toward the straight and level pitch, and let the airplane accelerate back to normal cruise speed, which is 90 knots. And as the airspeed builds, adjust your power setting back to about 2300 RPM. Then retrim it, okay? Because you touch the power at the time. If you touch the power, please just retrim it. And if you shove the nose down or jam the power in, that's when secondary stalls like to show up. So stay smooth here, okay? Great. And yeah, during slow flight, your instructor or checkerman may give you tasks like turn to the heading or climb or descend. Remember what we talked about earlier. In slow flight, altitude control primarily comes from power. So if you need to climb or descend, adjust power. Okay, adjust power. Yeah, but keep working the pitch to maintain the same airspeed. That's the key point here. Okay. So pitch for airspeed, power for altitude. Should keep in mind. And then now, if we add turns in slow flight, actually your safety margin gets smaller. So keep the bank shallow, usually somewhere around 10 to 20 degrees but for today I'd like to aim for about 15 degrees of bank. Okay, and this is not about aggressive maneuvering. This is about staying coordinated and in control while the wing is working harder. After a few tries, you'll start to get the feel for it, and it's not as hard as it looks. So, yeah, you'll be good. Yes, sure, for sure. Does it make sense? Cool. All right. Now let's talk about dirty configuration. Up to this point, we've been in clean slow flight, flaps up, right? So dirty slow flight is the same basic maneuver, but now we are flying with flaps extended. Because of the added drag and lift from the flaps, the airplane is going to feel noticeably different. Okay, sounds good. Good. Dirty entry, and the entry starts the same way as before. From your stabilized condition, smoothly reduce power back to about 1500 RPM and allow the airplane to slow down while maintaining altitude. At the same time, gradually raise the pitch as needed so you don't lose altitude. As the airspeed decreases, begin deploying the flaps on schedule according to your POH. Because there's a specified for the airspeed on your POH. But in my airplane, that's flaps 10 below 110 knots and flaps 20 and 30 below 85. Um, before actually before you move the flaps, I highly recommend getting into the habit of making a call out. So this is one of those professional habits. It gives you a quick double check moment, and it can really help you catch mistakes during critical phases of flight. It may seem small, but these little habits add up. Okay. But anyway, well, as the flaps comes in and stay ahead of the airplane and keep your altitude under control with small smooth pitch inputs, okay? Small smooth pitch inputs, okay? Good. And once you're stabilized in dirty slow flight, you'll notice few key differences. The nose will sit noticeably higher, drag increases significantly, and the controls will feel more sluggish. Okay. Because of that extra drag, you'll usually need a bit more power to maintain altitude, typically around 2100 RPM. And use pitch to keep your airspeed roughly in the 40 to 50 knot range. But the same rule still applies. Pitch is managing your airspeed, power is supporting altitude. Pitch for airspeed, power for altitude. And rudder keeps everything coordinated. Okay? So stay smooth and stay ahead of the airplane. Does that make sense? Great. Recovery. Yeah. Recovery from dirty slow flight is where discipline really matters. First, smoothly apply full power and control the yaw with right rudder. Okay. Then immediately retract the flaps to 20 degrees from 30 to start reducing drag. Next, gently lower the nose toward a straight and level pitch attitude to begin accelerating. As the airplane gains airspeed, gradually clean up the remaining flaps. And in my airplane, I go with flaps 10 at 60 knots and flaps 0 above 60 knots. So, well, the big mistake here is rushing the flaps. If you retract them too early, you can lose lift very quickly. So be smooth and stable control. Just just bring one notch up and let the airplane stabilize, and then continue retracting the flaps step by step. Okay, cool. And yeah, also this is also a great place to build a habit of making callouts. For example, like X60 flaps 10, above 60 flaps 0. Okay, for the double check. Okay, so once the flaps are fully retracted, it sets your power to 2300 RPM and return to a straight and level pitch attitude to accelerate back to around 90 knots. Okay, cool. Common errors. Oh yeah. Here are some of the most common mistakes students make. The biggest one is this one. Yeah, it's not enough right rudder. At slow speed and high power, the airplane naturally wants to yaw left. If the ball is not centered, the whole maneuver can get sloppy very quickly. So please keep that in mind. Other and yeah, and other big ones include changing altitude, over controlling, forgetting to add power, and rushing the recovery. Most of these issues come from abrupt control inputs actually. So you have actually plenty of time here. So focus on being slow and precise. It's called slow flight for a reason, right? Cool. Great. Yes. Um, if you remember just one mindset from today, it's this: set the airplane up properly and fly the outside picture, fly the attitude, pitch controls airspeed, power supports altitude, and always stay smooth and coordinated. Okay. Slow flight is really the foundation for everything you do near the ground, especially in the pattern. So the biggest takeaway here is to really understand how the airplane behaves in slow flight. You have to feel it. Okay, does it make sense? Great. All right. So next time we are going to make the wings work even harder with steep turns. Same airplane, same fundamentals, just more bank. Yeah. And honestly, it's not that difficult. It's actually pretty fun. Well, all right. That's all for today. Yeah. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.